First story. My daughter bullied her stepsister at school and made fun of her dead mum, and my entitled husband grounded my daughter and demanded an apology. I asked my stepdaughter to move on, but she tried to end herself for attention. Now my husband completely blames my daughter and has kicked her out of the house. I know how this is going to sound, but I'm not writing this looking for validation. I need clarity. I'm a 38F mum of 3 girls in a blended family. My husband David 40M and I have been together for over a decade. He has a daughter from a previous relationship, Maya 12F, whose mother tragically died during childbirth. I have a daughter from a past relationship, Lexi 16F, David, and I also share a daughter together, Ellie 6F. This is mostly about Lexi and Maya. David and I met when Lexi was around 5, and within a year, Lexi and I had moved in with him. The house is an old, multi-generation property from David's side, inherited and renovated by him. Each girl has her own room and en-suite bathroom, except for the downstairs guest bathroom. On the surface, things seemed functional. The girls had separate spaces and school routines, and we tried to keep things balanced. But there have always been undercurrents. Tensions. Some of it subtle, some of it not. Past conflicts. Lexi's never said it aloud, but I know she's struggled with always feeling like a guest in this home. Everything from the family photos on the walls to the furniture choices screams David's world, David's family. Maya's baby pictures are everywhere. Even Maya's room, while only slightly larger, feels more customized. David designed it himself. He justified it by saying Maya had lived there since birth and had first pick of rooms. Lexi's bathroom is admittedly smaller, and it doesn't get as much natural light. These are small things, but they pile up when you're a teenager already feeling out of place. There's also been a pattern of David treating Maya with a softness that Lexi doesn't get. Don't get me wrong, he's not abusive or mean to Lexi. But Maya gets away with things. Missed chores, overlooked, being snappy. She's going through a lot. Meanwhile, if Lexi shows even a hint of attitude, she's told to watch her tone. Lexi notices. She holds on to it. That resentment brewed quietly for years. Every time I brought it up, David would shut me down, saying I was imagining things or being too sensitive. So, yeah, there's history here. But things really blew up recently. The bullying incident. About a month ago, Maya started coming home from school in tears. At first, we thought it was general middle school drama. David and I tried to talk to her, but Maya's a quiet, withdrawn type. Getting details out of her takes effort. Eventually, we found out she was being bullied. Rumors, cruel jokes, isolation. It escalated quickly, and it was clearly affecting her mental health. Naturally, we were horrified. We contacted the school multiple times, pushed them to investigate, and tried to comfort Maya. It wasn't until about a week ago that we got the full picture. The source of the bullying was Lexi. I felt like I'd been slapped. David confronted her, and she didn't deny it. She said some of the rumors she spread weren't that serious and tried to downplay it. But some were cruel comments about Maya not having a mother, about her being a charity case, weird, or clingy. David immediately went into full disciplinary mode. He demanded Lexi apologize to Maya. When she refused, he grounded her indefinitely. Then came the real blow. He told Lexi she had 48 hours to pack her things, and that he'd be driving her to her father's house to stay there until further notice. Lexi lost it. She screamed that she was always the outsider, that Maya had everything, and that she was always treated like the troublemaker. She accused David of never liking her, of always waiting for an excuse to send her away. She said Maya manipulates everyone with her tragic orphan act. I didn't agree with Lexi's choice to lash out at Maya. That way I've never defended the bullying. But I also couldn't stand by and let David throw my daughter out of the home she's lived in since she was 5 like she's disposable. Yes, what she did was wrong. But she's 16. She made a stupid, spiteful mistake. She's still a child. David didn't see it that way. He said Lexi crossed a line, and that she was a danger to Maya's mental health. He called her cruel and heartless. He said he wouldn't tolerate someone in his home who could look a grieving child in the eye and spread lies about her. I told him he had no right to unilaterally decide to send my daughter away, especially not over a first offense like this. He shot back that it wasn't her first offense. He brought up old moments like the time Lexi made a passive-aggressive comment during Maya's birthday dinner last year, or the time she refused to let Ellie borrow her laptop for school. Petty teenage stuff, in my opinion. He treated them like part of a pattern of emotional abuse. We argued for hours. I told him he was being cold, that Maya isn't some fragile porcelain doll who can't handle conflict. that Lexi is going through her own stuff: teenage pressure, academic stress, friendship issues. He said he didn't care that our home had to be a safe space for everyone. And right now, Maya wasn't safe with Lexi there. I refused to help him pack her things. I told Lexi she wasn't going anywhere unless she wanted to. But David made it clear he'd physically drive her to her dad's house with or without my consent. Lexi, defeated and humiliated, shut herself in her room. That night, she didn't eat. Ellie kept asking where her big sister was and why everyone was mad. Maya stayed locked in her room too, crying. Lexi didn't come out of her room until the next morning, and when she did, her bags were already packed by David. He put them by the front door like we were dealing with some delinquent being evicted. I told him he was being dramatic and dehumanizing. He told me he was being decisive. Lexi didn't say a word to him. She hugged Ellie tightly, looked at me, and just said, "Thanks for at least trying." Then she walked out without another word. David drove her to her dad's place, a small apartment he shares with his girlfriend and their 2 other kids. Lexi would be sharing a room now. Less privacy, less space, less stability. That's what she was being pushed into over a school drama that could have been handled with a serious talk and grounding. When he came back, I asked him if he felt good about what he'd done. He said he didn't feel good, but he felt right. That this was about protecting Maya, and if Lexi had to be the casualty of that, so be it. I told him I couldn't believe how easily he discarded a child who's lived under his roof for 11 years. He shot back, "She's not my child." That's when it all clicked for me. Everything, the coldness, the favoritism, the double standards, it wasn't about discipline or fairness. It was about blood. Maya was his. Lexi was mine. Ellie is both of ours. The lines were always there. I just didn't want to see them. He kept saying Lexi needed to apologize, needed to own up. But he gave her no time to process, no room to make it right. It wasn't about repair, it was about punishment. About removing the problem from the equation. He never gave her the space to even try. I asked him what the end game was. Was Lexi banned from our home forever? Was he going to stop supporting her financially? Was she even welcome at family holidays? He shrugged and said, "She can come back when she learns how to treat people." And Maya. No consequences for hiding that her bully was living under our roof for weeks, while pretending nothing was wrong. No responsibility for not coming to us sooner. I get that she was scared, but she was also playing both sides until she was caught. He treats her like a fragile survivor, but she's not some helpless little girl. She's smart. She's calculated in her own way. And let's not pretend Maya has never been unkind. She's snapped at Lexi plenty. She once told Ellie that Lexi isn't really part of this family anyway. She said it during a family dinner. David heard it, and all he did was redirect the conversation. But when Lexi lashes out, she's labeled toxic and kicked out. Ellie's confused and upset. She keeps asking when Lexi's coming home. I haven't told her the truth. I've just said Lexi's spending time at her dad's house for a bit. David says I should be honest with her, but I don't know how to explain to a 6-year-old that her father made her sister leave because she said some awful things at school. Lexi's been texting me. She's angry, humiliated, but mostly hurt. She said she gets the grounding. She even gets that she messed up. But what she can't get over is how fast David made the decision to get rid of her. That it was never a family discussion, just a decree. I hate that she feels that way. And I hate that she's not entirely wrong. We've had friction over the years. She's not perfect. But she was a child when we moved in with David. She adapted, compromised, and tried to fit into a family that never really saw her as equal. And when she made one huge mistake, the response wasn't to discipline her, it was to exile her. I keep running this over in my head. Was she being cruel? Yes. Was it serious? Absolutely. But was it beyond redemption? Was it worth dismantling a decade-long relationship between a stepfather and stepdaughter? I don't think so. David says I'm coddling her, that I'm enabling bullying, that if it were Maya doing this to Lexi, I'd be demanding blood. But that's not true. If Maya had spread those rumors, I would have demanded accountability too. But I wouldn't have thrown her out like garbage. I told David this isn't over. That he doesn't get to shut the door on Lexi and call that parenting. That I won't let my daughter be treated like she's expendable. He told me if I push this, it's going to tear our marriage apart. So now I'm stuck. I'm angry that Lexi did what she did. I'm disappointed. I know she has a lot to reflect on. But she's also a teenager, and teenagers mess up sometimes badly. She wasn't given the chance to make it right. David didn't even try. He just removed the problem. I don't feel sorry for calling him out. I don't feel guilty for defending my daughter. I'm not going to sit here and pretend his reaction was proportionate or fair. But I do wonder if I've lost the battle here. Maybe Reddit will give it to me straight. Was David justified in removing Lexi from the home immediately? Was I wrong to stand by my daughter? Was there a better way to handle this that didn't end with a broken home and a fractured family? He says this was about keeping Maya safe. I say it was about keeping things easy for himself. So, Reddit, be honest. AITA. Comments. Comment 1. Jesus Christ. Your husband packed her bags for her, like she was a goddamn squatter being evicted. Look, Lexi messed up. Absolutely. She said vile SHT about Maya and deserved consequences. But what David did wasn't parenting. It was emotional exile. She's lived in that house for 11 years. You don't just kick a teenager out to go share a room at her dad's like she's an unwanted guest. That tells her loud and clear you were never family. Also, David weaponizing Maya's trauma is effed up. Maya isn't some porcelain doll. Kids who grow up motherless aren't automatically fragile saints. Maya was being two-faced playing victim, while acting like everything was cool with Lexi. That doesn't excuse Lexi's behavior, but it complicates it. Your husband's, "she's not really my child" comment. That right there is the smoking gun. That's not something you say about a child you claim to have raised for a decade. That's a deep emotional betrayal. Honestly, you're not the arsehole, but you're married to one. Comment 2. Look, I don't want to excuse bullying, especially the kind of SHT Lexi said about Maya's mom. That's nasty, and yes, she should have consequences. But kicking her out? That's not a consequence. That's abandonment with paperwork. David's reaction was overkill. But Lexi's no angel here either. She wasn't just being a brat. She emotionally torpedoed a vulnerable kid. And she's 16, old enough to know better. This wasn't a dumb teenage mistake. It was calculated. Also, you keep bringing up how David favors Maya and treats Lexi coldly. It sounds like this imbalance has been brewing for years, and now the volcanoes erupted. This whole thing wasn't about one incident. It was the tipping point in a house full of unspoken resentment. You both failed as co-parents. You didn't advocate enough for Lexi when things were subtle, and David threw gas on the fire now that things are explicit. And honestly, Maya's behavior crying to dad while pretending everything's fine with Lexi shows this kid knows how to play the room too. You all need therapy, but especially those girls. Ash, but you're the only one trying to reflect. Comment 3. Sorry, but I'm probably going to be the minority here. YTA, and Lexi needed to go. Actions have consequences, even for teenagers. You're acting like David committed some crime by protecting Maya. But he didn't yell. He didn't hit anyone. He said, "You spread cruel, personal rumors about your stepsister, and you're going to stay with your dad until you learn some damn respect." That's not exile. That's parenting. Lexi wasn't just lashing out. She was malicious. And then when caught, she doubled down and said Maya is manipulating everyone with her trauma. WTF. And your whole, "Maya should have said something sooner" argument. Classic blame the victim. She probably was scared to speak up because she knew how you'd react. And hey, look how you're reacting. You're way too focused on what this did to Lexi's comfort and completely ignoring what Maya went through being bullied by someone who pretended to be her friend. That's some real emotional damage. YTA, and honestly, you're proving David's point for him. Update. I didn't expect the mixed reactions my post would get, and I won't lie, I spent the first few days dismissing most of the comments. Everyone siding with David made me feel like I was going crazy, like nobody understood what it meant to be a mother trying to protect her child. But here's what happened after. After Lexi left, things didn't magically calm down in the house like David expected. Maya barely spoke to me. She avoided me like I was poison. Ellie sensed the tension too and started clinging to David more. I tried to hold things together, but every conversation felt like walking on glass. David didn't push me, but he was cold, like emotionally checking out, while waiting for me to come to some realization I wasn't ready for. 2 weeks after Lexi was gone, she texted me that she was struggling. Her dad's apartment was cramped, she didn't feel welcome, and she hated sharing space with his girlfriend's kids. She begged me to let her stay for a weekend, just to feel normal again. I agreed. I didn't ask David. I knew he'd say no. So I let Lexi in Friday evening after David left for work. She stayed in her old room. I told Maya she'd be gone by Monday. Maya locked her door and refused to come out. Ellie was confused and excited to see her sister. She didn't understand the context. Saturday morning, Maya found Lexi in the kitchen. Lexi said hi. Maya ignored her. That night, David came home early and saw Lexi sitting on the couch. He straight up asked, "What are you doing?" I told him Lexi needed space. That she was still part of this family. That she had nowhere else to go for peace. He said, "She has somewhere. With her father. The same place I took her when she attacked Maya." He told Lexi to grab her things. She left, not saying a word. But before she left, she looked at me and said, "Why did you do that to me?" I didn't understand what she meant. Not until days later. We started family therapy shortly after. I found a therapist hoping they'd help David see that we overreacted. I wanted someone objective to finally validate that Lexi didn't deserve to be exiled. It backfired. The therapist listened. Heard from each of us separately. Then said that Lexi staying at her bio-dad's house was the right move for now. That Maya needed a sense of safety restored before anything else could be built. She said Lexi needed a lot of work privately before reintegration could be healthy. She didn't call Lexi evil. She didn't suggest cutting her off. But she said healing could only happen with distance and accountability. I argued. I told her it wasn't right to kick a kid out. She said, Lexi wasn't kicked out. She was relocated to the other biological parent's custody, which exists for this exact kind of situation. Then Maya had a breakdown in session. She admitted she didn't tell anyone about the bullying earlier because she didn't want to cause problems. She thought I would accuse her of making it up. She said, "I never felt safe with her, and now I don't feel safe with you either." I didn't know what to say. I just sat there and realized Maya had completely detached from me. Then Lexi confessed something not in therapy, but later to her father, who relayed it to David. Lexi admitted she'd targeted Maya because she hated always feeling second best. That she resented how Maya was treated like the wounded angel. That she wanted Maya to suffer just once. She called it stupid and said she regretted it. David told me this, and I said Lexi still shouldn't have been sent away like a criminal. He looked at me and asked, "Do you hear yourself? She wanted Maya to suffer." I said Lexi was sorry now. That she was ready to apologize. That maybe Maya could meet her halfway, and they could both say sorry and move on. He stared at me like I'd grown another head. Apologize for what? For being bullied in her own house while her stepmother ignored it. He told me that was it. He was done trying to make me see reason. The next week, Maya self-harmed. She didn't tell me. David found her in the bathroom, holding a towel against her arm. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was enough. She broke down in the ER and said she felt worthless, that she was tired of being the target and tired of being invisible to me. When the legal teams got involved, I wasn't even allowed in the room with her. Maya asked me not to be there. That night, David sat me down and told me things were going to change. Maya would no longer speak to me until she chose to. Ellie's school schedule would shift. He was going to take the lead on her mornings and evenings. He said he wouldn't divorce me, not yet, but emotionally, he was done. I wasn't his partner anymore. I was the woman who chose the aggressor over the victim. He told me Lexi wasn't coming back, not unless she put in serious work, and Maya gave her explicit permission. And if I ever brought her into the house without his consent again, we were done. I asked him how I was supposed to just abandon my daughter. He said, "You already did. You just did it in reverse. You abandoned Maya to protect Lexi. Now the house is quiet. Dead quiet. Maya avoids me. David is civil but distant. Ellie is confused. I see Lexi every other weekend, and she's not the same. Distant. Bitter. She barely looks me in the eye. She knows I sneaked her into the house. She knows I promised to protect her, and ended up making everything worse. And the truth is, I did this. I kept justifying everything: Lexi's behavior, my reactions, my refusal to draw hard lines, because I didn't want to lose my daughter. But in doing that, I lost my marriage, I lost Maya's trust, and I damaged my relationship with Ellie, who's starting to pick up on all of it. Everyone in this house is bleeding, because I wouldn't admit my daughter was wrong, and that protecting her didn't mean enabling her. So yeah, I get it now. I was the arsehole. Comments. Comment 1. You ignored the bullying, downplayed the emotional abuse, brought the abuser back into the home without consent, and then tried to guilt the victim into apologizing for not speaking up sooner. Are you effing serious? Let's be clear. You chose your daughter over your stepdaughter, fine. But you also chose your comfort over truth, over responsibility, and over your husband's trust. That's where this all spiraled. You weren't trying to protect Lexi. You were trying to protect yourself from being the parent who has to face that her child became the bully. You couldn't handle being the bad guy, so you let everyone else suffer instead. And even after Lexi admitted she wanted to hurt Maya, you still tried to make it a both sides issue. You still couldn't say, "My daughter effed up, and this is on me for not stepping in sooner." Maya self-harmed. She's emotionally shut down. Your marriage is on ice. Ellie is confused and scared. Lexi's emotionally checked out. And you're the common denominator. Don't blame David. Don't blame Maya. Don't blame tension or blended family dynamics. You set the terms of this entire mess and kept pushing until everyone broke. YTA. Own it. Fix it, if it's even fixable now. Comment 2. I don't usually comment on these, but this pissed me off. You didn't fail. As a mom, you succeeded in showing everyone that Lexi would always come first to you, even at the expense of another child's mental health. You let Maya get emotionally torched by your daughter and gaslit her by suggesting she should meet Lexi halfway or move on. What the actual F? Maya was literally cutting herself, and you still found a way to frame this around Lexi's comfort and your maternal guilt. You brought Lexi back into the house behind your husband's back. You risked Maya's safety just so you could soothe your own conscience. That wasn't love. That was selfishness. David's not perfect, but thank God he finally drew the line. You almost broke every child in that house because you didn't want to feel like the bad guy. You should be damn grateful they haven't all walked away from you completely. Second story. My wife wants to take the kids and move across the country for a job that pays a third of what I make, which wouldn't even cover her expenses. I told her I won't be supporting her financially if she uproots our family and ruins our kids' lives for her new job. So my wife was recently offered a job across the country, which requires relocation, but also will have frequent travel obligations. My wife feels this would be a huge plus to her career. But the issue is we have 2 children, and my practice is here. What she will earn is not even half of what I currently make. She is currently not working, so I told her if she wants to take the job, she would have to help with childcare expenses, which would likely include a nanny because I sometimes work nutty hours depending on if I have a mandated hospital shift. She feels this is unfair because she would have to cover her own living expenses, and paying for childcare on top of that would leave her with very little. This job is not even providing a relocation bonus. She suggested we move, but everything we know is here. Our children have their friends here, and transferring my medical license is not all that simple. Her final suggestion is she takes the kids, and I stay here and cover the cost of childcare and expenses because she claims childcare and Cole editor's note, cost of living are cheaper. Just not cheap enough for her potential salary to sustain me being a sop. I want to support her, but her suggestions seem half-baked to me. AITA has no consensus bot. OP received the majority of AITAHs along with a few others. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA. I would understand if you were a stay-at-home dad. That would be reasonable. I didn't really get it. Are you completely against her going to work? Or this one specifically? If this one, then you are completely justified, especially considering that there are kids involved. Ripping them away from their friends is rude and unnecessary. OP. I am not against her working at all, just not in favor of moving to a different state. What are the long-term prospects of staying locally for OP's wife? OP. In what she wants to do, not great. She can leverage her engineering degree to work at a civil engineering firm doing consulting, but she did that prior, and she hated it. Her current offer actually would have her working on infrastructure and working on something with meaning. She is a female engineer and sick of working in consulting. She wants to do something that matters, but it is a big boys club here, which is a factor as to why she became a SOM. Commenter 2. NTA. This seems like a really strange situation for a married couple with children to be in. On the face of it, your wife thinking her taking this job is a viable option is crazy. It clearly doesn't make sense in all of the ways that matter logistically, financially, emotionally. The fact she suggested she take the kids and you stay is very, very strange. So it makes me wonder what else is going on. Are you happily married? Has she been a SOM for a while? Maybe she's worried about not being able to get back into the workforce and thinks she has to take any opportunity she gets. Have you sat down as a couple to discuss her getting a job and what that will look like for your family, what's important, etc.? Are you willing for your career to take the backseat for a while so she can reestablish herself in her career, etc., etc.? Lack of communication seems to be the issue here, but also maybe deeper-rooted problems in your marriage. Downvoted commenter. As a medical doctor, he could get a new job easily. He doesn't say this. There is more than one side here. OP. It actually is not that simple to just go practice in a completely different state. Where we would move to is not part of AMILC editor's note. Interstate Medical Licensure Compact. Also, I cannot just up and leave my patients like that either. Commenter 3. What is it about this specific job that has her willing to leave you on the other side of the country while she and the kids start a new life? Does she know somebody at this job? Or have connections in the area that you know of? Seems fishy to me. OP. From what she has told me, she was tapped for this position by her old professor and mentor from college. OP on, if he has his own practice or works for someone else. OP. I have my own practice and also work and teach at our state learning hospital. Director Multiple Sclerosis Center and Director Neurology Residency Program. I specialize in MIS. I am sure many would understand, but many of them would be disappointed. And it would take time for me to find someone that is willing to do this, especially at the rates I take. Not many here take Medicaid. How old are OP's children? OP 5 and 8. Update. Brief update since I got some requests. Not much has changed. I spoke with our kids, and of course they like it where we are. They are kids. The reason my wife wants to take this job is because she feels it due to the nature of how she got the offer from her old professor/mentor, and that she is also a female engineer. She understands her position. My wife is free to do what she pleases. She does not need my permission. But by no means can she expect us to uproot everything on the drop of a dime. I would never ask that of you. I did suggest she try and create her own firm here and find like-minded individuals who share a similar experience and create the work environment she wants. She is concerned she won't be able to break through that barrier of entry. I said we could find a means to fund said venture, but the logistics of moving do not make sense at this point. I would need at minimum a year to get my affairs in order. Working on research, working on opening an infusion center near the hospital that would take every insurance. This is a big one for me since many of the infusion centers near us do not take certain insurances since they pay so little. Looking to possibly expand my MS clinic with more providers who are willing to do this labor of love for our community. I cannot just drop all of that. I did tell my wife I have no intention of stopping her, and if she wishes to go, that is fine. But I would not be sustaining 2 households. If she moves, she would be responsible for all costs associated with the move. I will cover our shared expenses and primary residence, and that is all. I will cover everything here, and she will be responsible for her own expenses. I told her I would probably also lower or get rid of the credit cards since I know her. She would live off credit if she had to. I threw out the option that if she can request to work from home 3 out of the 4 weeks she is not traveling, we can take it slow. See what the housing market is like. See what schools look like, normal stuff you do before moving. She was not in favor of waiting since allegedly they need her answer by October. I have no desire to divorce, but I am a child of divorce and was raised by my dad. Overall, his outlook on divorce has always been, there's no point fighting if the person has already checked out. If my wife wants out, I will respect that. My wife has only been a SOP for around 5 years. She worked when we had our firstborn and well into the pregnancy of our second. She took maternity leave. When that was done, she went back to work. A few months after her return, she was passed for a project/contract she did the legwork to secure, which led her to quit and stay home with the kids. Our kids have been in daycare, under grandparents' care. My mom took 2 years to help with our firstborn. Her parents took off time for our second. Our second has been in academic daycare, as she puts it, since she was 3. So it is not like she does not get breaks, or is always with the children alone. My hours can be chaotic, but I made her well aware of this when we started to date and progress. When we started to date, I was already vested in our community. My gut tells me she is going to take the job, and yes, it possibly will lead to divorce. And if that is the case, given how much traveling she will be doing, I suspect I would be granted primary custody. I would not take CS from her and have no desire or need for it. Sorry for the stream of consequences. It is slightly disjointed because this is a frustrating position to be in. I have no desire to be in this position, but I have other responsibilities I cannot just drop without proper notice. If it comes to divorce, that is the way it played out, and you just roll with it. As my parents told me, I will tell my kids. Just because they were no longer together does not mean either of them loved me any less. Granted, it was not a cross-country thing in our case. My parents lived blocks away from one another. It was a pretty easy transition on my part. I hope we can do the same for our kids if need be. The deal is far worse than I thought. But it is a small startup thing with a small team. Who won the project since they took a huge cut on their profits. So pay is actually a lot less than half what I make. More like 1/3 of what I make, if that. So I can see how she cannot afford to cover any shared expenses. She probably will barely be able to cover her own expenses. We will see, but all signs point to her taking the job. And we will just adjust. But if divorce happens, it happens. That is life. I do love my wife, but she is her own person with free will. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. So she wants to move across the country to take a job that wouldn't even sustain her alone. OP. She barely will be able to sustain herself. Allegedly. It's just a temporary thing until they establish themselves as a firm company first. Commenter 2. If she takes the job, just be careful. See a lawyer about protecting assets in case of divorce. Because my guess is she is by herself, across the country, with no kids. It's like the old saying, when the cat's away, the mice will play. OP. If it comes to that, I would not fight it. I will give her half of what she is entitled to. Probably would also just buy her out of the house also. Not going to sweat the little things. She clearly does not like it here. She wants more. That is fine. Commenter 2. I was thinking more about your business and retirement. I hope I'm wrong. But I was also thinking of doing it behind your back, not asking for divorce. OP. That is a good point. Was not thinking about that. OP responds to a downvoted comment on what his wife gave up when he was in medical school. What has she done to help contribute to the household? OP. We were friends when I was in medical school. We were not dating. She did not quit her job until our second child was born, and even that was after a year or so. Leaving my obligations on such short notice is not possible and far from professional. For us to move, I would at minimum need a year. Our kids have been in daycare since they were 3, and we had grandparent support for each child. She is not isolated or anything. Yes, I understand she wants a professional career, but this job by all metrics is a bad deal. Commenter 3. What are your hours now? And what will they be after you expand your clinic? You said your hours were already chaotic, so I'm just curious. OP. Outside of my mandated hospital shifts, I am home no later than 7. So around 7 to 7. Once they go to sleep, I may respond to patient messages and review and update notes from 12 to 2 once a week. Sometimes I do work weekends since some of my patients are working parents, so that is the only time they can come in. But that is like 8 to 11 hours. Only have a handful of weekend patients. That is a once a month thing. Edit. I know it is less than ideal, but I have my reasons for going this far. My grandfather had MS, and it was rough for him. Commenter 4. I would reconsider child support when the time comes. Your children are young. If you take the child support and do something towards their future, investments or such, it could dramatically change their lives. Regardless of how much you earn, save, etc., with young children, it seems like there will be many challenges that we didn't have to face. And a bit extra may make an enormous difference in their lives and future. OP. Maybe it's ego or pride. But if we divorce over this, I will not request CS, and will let her use that money how she sees fit. Hopefully she would do what is best for our kids. I don't want to take money from her if we separate when she claimed she could not afford it. I would want to limit my interactions with her as much as I can. If she does not pay, I don't want to have to chase her, request hearings if she does not pay, or deal with her possible adjustments. Thankfully, I have been saving for our kids from day one. I will consult my attorney if it does come to it, but thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.